Did you see what happened to the other George Floyd cops?
Yeah, federal hate crimes, whatever the fuck that means.
Well, they didn't get hate crimes. They that was the Ahmaud Arbery guys, who we'll get to in a second. But they got civil rights violations, I guess something similar. But on Thursday, all three of the other police officers involved in the George Floyd case, not Derek Chauvin, obviously, but Tuo Tao, J. Alexander King, and Thomas Lane, were convicted of depriving George Floyd of his civil rights, which in this case, I guess, is medical care. No posthumous conviction for George Floyd for denying his own right to breathe by his own drug overdose. At least I didn't see news of that. But get this, conviction of a federal civil rights violation that results in death, which is what they're saying this is punishable by life in prison or even death. Though those sentences are rare, a sentencing date has not yet been set. And what
about having to subdue somebody? He was a 6'4" black guy on drugs, acting erratically and violently, and they needed to subdue him.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know what the jury would have them do otherwise. They even went after them for, like, the guy who was doing crowd control. He was the Asian guy. His name is Tuo Tao. He was doing crowd control, and they got him for, assistance, basically, even though I don't think he even touched George Floyd. He just didn't do enough to provide medical assistance, and I guess denying or controlling the crowd was a form of denial of that right somehow.
Was this civil rights violation even on your radar?
I knew they were going to federal trial, but I shouldn't be. After the conviction of Derek Chauvin, I'm just not going to be surprised by anything in this case anymore, no matter how silly. But all three now face trial in June on state charges that they aided and abetted the murder and manslaughter that Derek Chauvin is convicted of. Now, again, the big issue here is not whether these cops acted rightly or wrongly. You might think they acted terribly, and you might think they are responsible for George Floyd's death. The question here is should we have this level of federal intrusion on made-up nonsense whenever the feds want an insurance policy on a conviction? Because I was talking to a lawyer friend about why they do these things in the McMichael case that we'll get to in a minute. If you already got them convicted, these guys aren't convicted yet, but the McMichaels are. Why do you go after them on federal charges too? The idea is, well, even if they were let off on state charges, let's say they get pardoned, let's say they somehow get cleared of those state charges, well, then the feds still have their way with them.
Yeah.
And we like to dress this up in civil rights and equal rights and racial justice, but it's really just the feds overriding what is clearly the domain of the states to police.
Yeah.
Constitutionally.